Welcome back to PLS 510 Forage Management and Utilization. Today we're going to be working through Kentucky bluegrass and understanding how it grows and how we manage it and its advantages and disadvantages. Scientific name for Kentucky bluegrass is Poa pratensis, and as we've said before, pratensis, the origin of that word is pasture, and Poa is the general term for grasses. The common name, of course, is Kentucky bluegrass. It's a perennial, short, sod-forming cool season grass that can spread by rhizomes. And even though we say that tall fescue has short rhizomes and theoretically can spread, bluegrass is really the only cool season, true sod-forming grass that we have commonly in Kentucky. It is an apomixtic species, which means all seeds are genetically alike, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in just a moment or two. It is primarily used as a pasture species, and it's low yielding when harvested from pure stands as hay alone. It has a tremendous amount of leaf area, the LAI, leaf area index, near the soil surface. It is adapted to the northern regions and also the transition zone of the United States, and that would be the transition zone would be the area that we are in, and it's transitioning from the typically the tropical or subtropical warm temperatures of the deep south to the true cool season temperatures of the north. As a reminder, as we get back into talking about grass identification, we're going to be keying in on 3 or 4 different characteristics of grasses, but typically the ligule, that area, that structure that may or may not be present right there as the leaf joins the collar, the auricle, or the absence of auricles, which is the structure that looks like something reaching around the stem when they're present, and then the orientation coming out of the bud or coming up as new leaves emerge. Is it round or is it flat? With bluegrass or Kentucky bluegrass, when you can see a reproductive tiller, the identification is pretty easy. The inflorescence or seed heads are open and pyramid-shaped panicles, and the seed heads have a blue or purplish blue color. And when you see a field of bluegrass in head, you will notice it'll have a blue color, and for at least for my purposes, that's the reason why Kentucky bluegrass has gotten the name bluegrass. If you look at bluegrass from a distance, you're going to notice several things. Number one, it's going to be very fine textured and typically low growing. If you get in closer, then the leaves are going to be rolled in the bud. The leaf blades are going to be long and almost the same width from the base to the tip. And it should say the tip of the leaves. The tip of the leaves are shaped like a boat keel. And while many cool season grasses have a bit of a boat keel at the tip, the bluegrass plant is the most pronounced. If it really comes down to identifying bluegrass, one of the ways that you need to have in your skill set is the ability to take a hand lens and look at the midvein of the grass. Bluegrass is going to appear to have a double midvein, and actually it's just a deep groove on either side of the midvein such that it looks like it has 2 midveins. This is both some descriptions and drawings and photographs of the boat-shaped tip or the keel-shaped tip of the leaf of Kentucky bluegrass. As we said before, the area of adaptation of Kentucky bluegrass is going to be Kentucky, primarily the eastern 2/3 of the state and north, and in the higher elevations of the Appalachian region. It needs fertile soils with a pH of 6.5 or better, moderately high levels of P and K. Needs sufficient moisture because it tends to go dormant in summer because of its shallow root system. It tolerates flooding better than most cool season grasses, is very winter hardy, and tolerant of high traffic and close defoliation, making it almost ideal for horse pastures. It's earlier maturing compared to the other cool season grasses, and it wouldn't be unusual to see heads of bluegrass appearing in mid to late April. If you want to think about varieties and variety development, we've already said that Kentucky bluegrass is an apomixtic species, and apomixtic is where you have embryo production without the need for fertilization. In other words, asexual reproduction. Every seed of bluegrass that is going to be identical, and therefore the seeds are going to perform true. They're going to be clones, genetic clones of the parents. This can be beneficial, but it limits the development of improved varieties through breeding. If we pause for a moment and think about agronomic management, if you want to establish Kentucky bluegrass, you'll use about 10 to 15 pounds per acre, but most often more, and plant it, well, it says less than a 1/4 inch deep, which is terribly difficult to do, but shallow is where you want to plant it because it is such a small seed. Fall is the optimum time. It's slower to establish than any other of our cool season grasses. It has a longer time to germinate. And if you want to look up in AGR 18, our seeding guide, for how many seeds per pound, I believe that you'll find that Kentucky bluegrass has over 4 million seeds per pound. If you go to a vendor and price that out, you'll find that it is very cost effective for seeding an acre of ground. Now, when we are establishing horse pastures, many times the farm will use 50 pounds of a seed mix or more. The seed mix may be bluegrass plus orchard grass, or bluegrass plus some orchard grass and perennial ryegrass, but typically they will not use the minimum seeding rates for bluegrass. The fertility, as we've said, is it requires a higher level of soil fertility than most grasses. It's compatible with most species of legumes, but especially the ones that are low growing, like white clover. When we graze it, we can afford to graze it down lower because, as we said, it's got more leaf area closer to the surface. This is a graphic we'll use quite often to compare the 4 major types of grasses, at least low-growing type grasses, and their residual height. From left to right, bluegrass, orchard grass, tall fescue, and Bermuda grass. The dashed line is not the optimum grazing height for any one species, but you can see that that grazing height there at that dashed line is below 2 inches. And below 2 inches, you will not have any leaf area left of orchard grass and not much of tall fescue, but you'll have quite a bit of Bermuda grass and bluegrass. And as we said, bluegrass is often considered the ideal pasture for horses, and bluegrass and orchard grass are a common mixture for horse pasture. So if you want to summarize Kentucky bluegrass, its advantages: it's adapted to most of Kentucky. It has high quality. It tolerates close and frequent grazing, and frequently people consider it to be ideal for horse pastures. It's a sod-forming cool season grass. It's winter hardy and compatible with most legumes. On the disadvantage side, it does need more fertility than other grasses to do well. It has limited summer growth, and when it is hot or when soils are shallow, it'll go into dormancy and actually turn brown. It is lower yielding, and that means it's got lower carrying capacity or lower total animal production per acre. And we have fewer improved varieties of Kentucky bluegrass because of apomixis. We'll see you next time.